Hello there. Today I'm going to talk about the NHL lockout, the Steve Moore incident with Todd Bertuzzi, and the settlement that had happened, and my interpretation of it. A lot of money got moved around. That much is given. Not necessarily to Steve Moore, but just amongst the NHL, because it was a serious, significant thing to have happened. I believe it contributed to the NHL lockout. I believe this incident was very much argued about within the NHL. And other teams would have put their 2 cents in as well. Probably every NHL team in the league would have had something to say. Yeah, Steve Moore never played another game. This all came about, as everyone knows, a story that he had injured Marcus Naslund, given him a concussion and some bone chips in the elbow or something like that. And a lot of people said he was asking for it, which you could argue is true. I mean, hockey is a very competitive game. People get very emotionally charged when they're playing, and you can't run around acting like a prick like that and not expect something to happen. And the moments before it happened, Todd Bertuzzi was pursuing him. And if a guy like Todd Bertuzzi is pursuing you and you actually have done something that would piss him off, if you're going la-di-da-di-da, nothing's going to happen, then you're obviously a total idiot, and there is only one cure for idiots. Sorry to say, but he deserved that smack in the face. Let's keep in mind he had a visor on. That's a big deal. And Todd Bertuzzi didn't punch him with his fist. He punched him with a glove on. And those gloves, although you could do some damage with them, not nearly as much as a fist. They're padded. Okay, so let's take that into consideration. I happen to know for a fact that you don't necessarily flop out on the ground because you took a shot to the chops. I've taken shots to the chops before and not fallen down. I realize he's on ice skates and maybe he slipped, but I saw the video and it was, he just went and the thing is, yeah, Todd Bertuzzi was pursuing him. He was grabbing him by the back of the jersey, like he was, you knew something was going to happen. I mean, Steve Moore had fought Matt Cook, so some people make the argument, well, that doesn't give him a free pass. He was on their turf, and he should have expected more to have come, which is true. And a lot of people make the argument that he was a fourth liner and he was never going to make a lot of money in the NHL, and then all of a sudden he wants this absurd amount of money. Well, his greed was detrimental to himself. And I don't mean from Todd Bertuzzi, I don't even mean from the Vancouver Canucks, and maybe not even necessarily the National Hockey League. There are dark agents out there that love money being passed around, and they'll do anything to get it moved around. And this is a conspiracy theory, okay? I don't know for a solid fact, but it's a distinct possibility. It's entirely within the realms of something that could happen, especially when money's being moved around. And given my situation, it probably is a sketchy thing to say, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. Just because. Sometimes when massive amounts of money are being moved around, the powers that be can be very cold. They just don't care. They're disconnected, and the thought of somebody either being in extreme pain or death, none of that matters to them because they're disconnected. Maybe they have their own personal biases. Maybe they've undergone hardship themselves. Maybe they have this supposed greater understanding of what the world really is. I don't know all that, but what I do know is that it wasn't just Steve Moore that was going, yes, I want to sue for this amount of money, I want this. I mean, because at the time he was a young, arrogant prick too, obviously, given the play. He also would have had a circle of, well, we'll just call them sycophants, because there's all sorts of people that would have been around him. You know, the smell of a rotten carcass is going to bring all kinds of vultures around. And Steve Moore's career was over, so they saw an opportunity to really stick it to them and really make a whole pile of money. I guess Steve Moore probably figured, well, I'm never going to make that much money, but without suing this guy, because a lot of people speculate his NHL career wouldn't have gone very far. We'll never know, but yeah, he was never going to be, obviously, a Sidney Crosby or an Alex Ovechkin or Connor McDavid or whatever and make a whole pile of absurd money. Yeah, so obviously Steve Moore had his sycophants who also would have made a pile of money out of suing the Canucks organization and all that. And it became less about Steve Moore's injury and more about the money. The problem is, if certain organizations lose money and certain ones gain money, you have to look past the sycophants and Steve Moore and Todd Bertuzzi and their court battle, because they're just a small part, and there's a larger part behind that, and a larger part behind that. And sometimes they, the powers that be, because they have such a cold opinion on life and death, sometimes they need a body to make something happen. And that's pretty spooky that, you know, just for monetary reasons, you know, the government could be quite cold. And they just, you wouldn't think. You would go, hey, that's just, that doesn't sound reasonable. That sounds like, you know, insane people are in charge. But sometimes that's just the way things are. Anyway, the conspiracy theory I have is that they poisoned Dominic Moore's wife, and that's why she got this rare form of liver cancer, because she had died and Steve Moore was able to get a settlement. Now, as far as Todd Bertuzzi and Steve Moore being on the ice, that was their thing. Dominic Moore's wife, that has nothing to do with Todd Bertuzzi. I wouldn't even have to say it, but there are people out there that are going to twist my words. So that's the only reason why I even... anyway. Yeah, a lot of money got moved, and it didn't all come out of Todd Bertuzzi's pocket, although I'm sure a fair chunk of it did. It's just, don't you find it coincidental that this settlement happened year after Katie Moore's death? About a year after that? It's really, I can't think of the words to describe it. But there really are people who hide in the shadows, who are that cold, who are that vicious. And if it comes down to them losing money, they'll do anything. And or if they stand to gain money, they'll do anything. And maybe they'll put someone like Katie Moore into the special happy box in history, and she'll always be well thought of and everything. As she should. But they put her in that happy box where everyone will remember her fondly. because they did something horrible to her. You know what? Like, there are only X amount of NHL players in the NHL. There's, what, like 1,200 of them, something like that? What are the odds that a rare liver disease is going to strike one of these hockey players, and in conjunction with Dominic Moore being related to Steve Moore, going after all this money that, as an arrogant prick, he was trying to grab more than he should have. And, the powers that be made a decision behind the scenes going, well, we'll just make another incident happen and turn Katie Moore into a bit of a martyr, which she undeniably is, because Dominic Moore, being the upstanding, decent man that he is, obviously started a foundation and he thinks about her every day. But, the hand of death came for her, and I think rather than it be, of normal causes, of normal circumstances, I think the dark side, the villainous, fucking evil, despicable people of the world had a hand to play in it, because there most certainly is chemical compounds that can induce cancer just like that. There are mad scientists out there that do design these things for the specific purpose of manufacturing a scenario. I mean, I'm not going to say Dominic Moore is stupid. I'm not saying he shouldn't, be mad about this. And I guess even at me for making a video like this, even suggesting that it could have been avoided. I don't know, this is just a theory. A lot of hockey players have gone through personal tragedy. A lot of famous people have gone through personal tragedy. And, it's impossible to predict this sort of stuff because, you can live in a world where you figure, oh, nothing bad's going to happen, everyone around me is real nice, I understand how things work, blah, blah, blah. And then something out like this comes out of the cold blue, and you get a reasonable explanation from maybe a doctor you trust, and then you go to specialists that the doctor has appointed you to, and the doctor trusts the specialist and all them. But the thing is, they're all trained liars. A regular GP will lie to you on matters if they figure that they're in the right. They're trained to do that, and it's hard to spot them for what they're lying about unless you have to deal with them a lot, and you don't really want to deal with them a lot, to be honest. So you take that into consideration. They're able to detect lies, that's sure enough, but they're trained to tell lies as well, and you're not always going to be able to know when they are lying. And the thing is, so the GP is trained to do that. So is the specialist. Because their ass is way more on the line because it is about cold, solid facts. And that specialist, he has an asshole telling him what to do. So even your GP should question the specialist. Go, well, is he telling the truth? Is he lying? Or whatever. Because I'm sure all GPs will have some sort of working knowledge of what a specialist would have to say, but they don't know everything because there's just too much to know. They probably know him on a personal level to some degree, I would hope. I don't know though, because I just don't know. But somewhere up the chain, there could be a set of lies told to one source, to the next source, to the next source, to the next source, and then finally to you, and you won't know anything. Won't know anything for certain. A scenario can always be manufactured where you don't quite know what happened. You never know what quite happened because for whatever reasons, people will have their mechanisms, mostly for self-preservation, to lie, and sometimes they don't even feel guilty about it. I don't know. It's just, I'm concerned with my social media project because I'm hoping that they're not looking at me going, well, we need a dead body to make this work. Because me being the guy who talks on these videos, that would not be something I would like. No. And you know, I always bitch about my sore throat, but my GP doesn't seem very concerned. I guess she's really thoroughly looked into this. I hope so anyway, and she hasn't been deceived herself. Like, I certainly don't want my situation to, you know, for me to gather, you know, a biased opinion. I don't want me to be traumatized by the sore throat I've had for 4 years. But I see similarities in my situation and other things. Like I remember one story in Asia where it was a vague story. I really should have saved it. I saw it on YouTube one time. Basically, a pharmaceutical company in Asia, basically they gave a vial of what looked like straight up poison to a family to give to their sick daughter, and her lips turned blue and she died. And the parents had no idea what to say, no idea what to do. They were just very grief-stricken. And the pharmaceutical company, money changed hands there. Things happened, and most certainly in a place like Asia where life is cheap, they need a body. And I think in some instances there are powers that be that say the same thing in Western countries. And it's shitheads like that that have to be removed from power. I don't know. I don't know enough of the situation. I only read what's on the internet, and you gotta take it with a pinch of salt. I certainly mean no disrespect to Dominic Moore, and I mean no disrespect to Todd Bertuzzi either, or Steve Moore, even though Steve Moore was a bit of a prick, but we kind of all are when we're that age. So, you know, back in 2004 when he was going after, or 2004 when the incident happened, and then 2006 where he was going after all kinds of money, you can't really blame him, but that punch to the chops he took, that isn't what caused his injury. Him collapsing on the ground, Todd Bertuzzi jumping on top of him, I don't think that caused his injury either. The Avalanche player that jumped on him, Nicholson or whatever his name is, that might have done it, but I'm not going to say I've been dogpiled on the ice before, because that's not entirely true. But if you look at the mechanics of it, what are the odds that an injury like that permanently disables a person from playing hockey? What are the odds of that happening in a simple dog pile? What are the odds of him collapsing on the ground from one punch to the chops with a glove that was padded? Like, and what are the odds that before that, Steve Moore was running around acting like a prick, and Todd Bertuzzi was pursuing him. Todd Bertuzzi, and he was looking the other way deliberately. That's like, you know, wearing a skirt in prison. Let's get serious, people. You don't do that. Yeah, anyway, so yes, Steve Moore was actively pursuing this money that he felt entitled to, and there would have been the powers that be that saw an opportunity to get what they wanted, make money, and maybe shape the future of the NHL, and they went, well, we need a body, where are we going to find one, and just really solidify this deal. And they went, oh, he's got a brother named Dominic Moore, he's got a wife, let's get her. The most unconscionable, unforgivable thing to do if true. Just a theory. certainly don't want to spread negative light on the NHL, but you know, a small-time YouTuber like me saying something like that, come on. I'm sure other people have heard more vicious stories that weren't true, that were intentionally told as lies, coming from more higher up the food chain, important people. I don't know what you call them. But, I don't know. I think Katie Moore, she was taken away from Dominic Moore too young, and I'm just opening up the idea, if someone else hasn't already done it, that possibly she shouldn't be dead because she shouldn't have gotten that liver disease. And Dominic Moore don't know, may never know, nobody may ever know, except the people who did it, but they may have gone, that's what's happening, and they're very despicable people if that's what happened. I'm finding it hard to believe that that happened to Dominic Moore and his wife. Rare disease. I've never even heard of anyone who's ever died of liver cancer. I mean, people die. That's just the fact of the fact of life. Everyone dies at one point. But I don't know, when that kind of money's around, and with the kind of fucking evil fuckers that are out there, you can't stop thinking. You can't stop going, well, what if? It is, I don't know. Obviously, you know, I don't like the story. Katie Moore deserves a good spot in history. It's just, it really shouldn't have happened at all. Maybe it was just genetics or something or whatever caused it. Maybe that is really what happened. But as I said, with that kind of money moving around, it is possible that that's not what happened. I don't know if Dominic Moore's come to the same conclusion or not, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah. If that is what happened, it isn't gonna happen anymore. Because people who even conjure up that kind of mentality that this is how the way it's got to be, they have to be removed from power. It's just, they're unconscionable. And I do say this, you know, quaking in my own boots, looking at my situation, reviewing my YouTube channel, everything I've talked about, and my sore throat, and the way I've been approached about everything, and I go, hey, wait a minute. I hope something isn't coming to get me, like like a Freddy Krueger or a Jason Voorhees or something like that. You wouldn't be human if you were in my position and not sleep with one eye open and not look over your shoulder every time a leaf falls behind you. You wouldn't do that. So yeah, I am on my toes. Yeah, I am a little bit paranoid. As I said, just wouldn't be normal if you weren't. Yeah, I know all this concept is hard for some people to understand, and they don't want to hear it, but you never know who's watching, and you never know what they're thinking. And I know that better than anyone, because I have 360 videos, over 360 videos, and hardly anyone says anything to me about anything. The room's gone quiet. The aisle of silence. But I'll be back. I swear by all that is cool, I will be back. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Don't wig out or anything.